A very good evening to you all. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. Monday night, as usual. You know what? I might start doing them a bit later because it seems that a lot of people start turning up around about 9 o'clock rather than 8:30. So maybe I'll start being late for the sake of it from now on. I hope you're all well. It's been a very odd week, hasn't it? A very odd weekend. And I hope people are fine. Now, I've read some of the messages, some of the early messages in the chat. And I just want to say, everyone's got an opinion about various things, about the royal family, their politics, etc., etc. And all I ask is that people have respect for each other. No more than that. It's not a political show. It's not a show about the royal family, etc. And I've read some of the things. I'm not going to put them on the screen, but I have read them. I respect people's views, but let's try and keep it nice between us all, yeah, because after all, we're all West Ham family. Things affect us in different ways. I don't like certain people's opinions and certain people don't like my opinions, but we try and agree to disagree. So let's keep it a little bit respectful, yeah. Anyway, let's get on with the show because I'm gonna be really honest with you, there's not a lot to talk about. I'm really not kidding. Given the fact that we have only had one game played. All the other games have been cancelled. Things like the under 18s, the under 21s, the women's league has yet to start, etc. So, and there's not a lot of real stories to be given you, but I've done my best. I've done my best. So hopefully, you can appreciate what I've got together. So let's see who's in the chat. Good evening to you, Ironclad. I hope you're well, mate. Chelsea game already called off. Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about all the fixtures. Well, thankfully, doesn't affect us as much as it might affect some other teams. Good evening to you, Clive. Thank you for joining, mate. Really appreciated. I hope you're well. And then you change your name to Green Street, same person. Please remember, thank you, much appreciated. I'm rubbish at doing that sort of thing. If you're new to the channel, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, do hit the like button, the subscribe button and all that. I really appreciate it. Good evening to you, Irene. How are you? Good evening, Chris. How are you? Thank you for joining. Hammer, I'm glad you made it. I hope you're well. And we'll have a chat hopefully sometime soon. Good evening to you, Shaky, from West Wales. I hope you're well. What's the weather like there? It's been weird here. It looks like it's rubbish, but when you go out, it's actually really warm. Bits, sticky and all that sort of stuff. Good evening, Andy. How are you? Hope everyone is fine on this Monday evening. All well, mate, and I hope you are too. Good evening to you, Kevin, sorry. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Mr. Tiley, I hope you're well. R.I.P. to the Queen. Yep. Good evening to you, Howard. I hope you're well. Good evening, Keith. How are you? Keith, am I right in thinking that you're the ex-ref? Don't beat him up now. Because if you are, I think I'd like to have you on and have a chat about VAR decisions and stuff like that sometime in the future. I'm sure you said that you were. If you're not, then I apologize. Good evening to the 12th man. Oh, Dan, I like your, well, I know I've seen behind the scenes, Dan. Looks good. It looks good. We have to have a chat, mate. You need to teach me how to do some graphics. Mr. Bartlett, how are you? I keep calling you Bartlett. I don't know why. It just comes to me. Good evening, Martin. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening, Daniela. How are you? Hammerette, London games of all, not all, ironically, which is a bit weird, but I'll get to that in a moment. Good evening, Mandy. How are you? Let's talk about the positive lineup versus Everton. Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. You may disagree, though, because I know a lot of people are talking about a certain character, a certain player that they think should start immediately. But we'll challenge that in a minute. Steve, stroll on Thursday footy's back. Yeah, bit flat for whoever went to the game last week against FCSB or Steaua Bucharest, whatever you want to call them. It was a bit of a flat atmosphere. And then, of course, the news just before the game was played as well didn't made it even flatter in a way. Good evening, James. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Daniela, Hammer, only Chelsea versus, yeah, it's weird what games are, but no, maybe not so weird. I'll explain it when I get to it. Good evening, Tony. How are you, mate? Brentford v Arsenal, they're playing. I know. Yeah, exactly. Good evening, Kent. How are you, mate? I'm not a massive royalist, but I respect the Queen. Rest in peace. Country will never be the same. After a lot of thinking, I now think Newcastle game should have been played. We would have showed respect. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, because we did pay our respects in the game against FCSB last week as well. So But my understanding is there are certain reasons why some games had to be cancelled. I'll get to it in a minute. Hammer it. Daniela, there was talk of moving the game to Anfield. There was, but seems not. Dan, always happy to sort some. Thank you, mate. I'm going to chat to you. I will chat to you later. Kent, is it true we only sold 400 seats for Silkeborg? They're still on sale. They are still on sale. Really, really surprising. But you know why, don't you, Kent? Because the club have warned those who buy the tickets and then don't collect them will not be eligible to buy tickets for the next game against Anderlecht. So you know Anderlecht's going to be sold out like that. Billy Bob, good evening to you, mate. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Who else have we got in the chat? Good evening to you, Billy Clark. How are you, mate? What did Kent say? Have I missed what? Oh, yes, Kent, about what you said about the Queen. And good evening, Paul. Right, so let's get into the first part of the show, shall we? And I am going to talk a little about the passing of the Queen because, because of that, obviously, we unfortunately had our game cancelled, as did all Premier League games get cancelled last weekend. Some people are upset. Some people are like, well, it is what it is. But, we accept the rough with the smooth, don't we? And was it the right thing to cancel? I think, as Kent pointed out, I think maybe they could have allowed games to go on because, after all, cricket was played and various other sports were played as well. And I was a little bit surprised that the FA, the Premier League, the football authorities decided to cancel the game. But it is what it is. So when is it next going to be played? Well, my understanding is that the earliest possibility of this game being played again is around about the middle of January. Given that we've got Europa Conference League games to play, we've got the League Cup starting up in November, and then of course we take the break just before November, or is it October? And then we've got the World Cup coming up as well. That's going to hinder the ability to play this game anytime sooner. So my understanding is that the 17th, 18th of January is likely to be the earliest time that we can play this game. Now, spare a thought for the teams, not that I care because our game's going ahead, but spare a thought for the teams that aren't going to play again this weekend, because not only did they have one, they got two games that they're going to have to fit in. But hey, that's their problem, not ours. Now, the game against Arsenal and PSV, even though it's being held on Thursday, it's been decided to cancel that game as well. And it's understandable. PSV Eindhoven fans are notorious for their away behavior, shall we say. So with the resources being moved to the funeral and setting up everything over the weekend, it was decided that game wouldn't go ahead. And as people have alluded to, there are a number of other games that have been postponed as well. The game between Man United and Leeds has been postponed. The game between Brighton and Crystal Palace, and the game between Chelsea and Liverpool. Now, why? People are asking, well, if we got the games going on in London, what's the point of cancelling games up in Manchester and cancelling games down in Brighton? Well, quite simply, the rivalry. Imagine, again, it looks obvious from that resources are being pulled into London to make sure that the funeral goes, without any hindrance, etc. So that reinforcements, police reinforcements and other services are being pulled into London. So that means, are they going to allow the Man United and Leeds United fans to beat the hell out of each other? I don't think so. Brighton and Crystal Palace, there's an obvious rivalry there as well. So that's why that's not being played. And of course, the Chelsea game was going to be on the Sunday. So that's been postponed as well. I get it. It's understandable. Do I feel sorry for those teams who aren't playing? So long as my team plays, why do I care? No, that's cruel. But it's understandable why those games have been postponed. But as Kent has alluded to, it's a pity that games weren't held last weekend, because we paid respect to, the Queen, and not only did the West Ham fans sing the national anthem. Again, I'm not getting into the politics of whether you're, a royalist or not. It matters not. The respects were paid. But also the FCSB, the Steaua Bucharest fans, applauded the national anthem being sung as well. So fair play to them, because they were involved in paying their respects too, which was quite nice to see. Right, so let's move on before I go on to the next part of the show. Let's see what you guys have to say. So let's scroll down a bit and let's see who else we got. Dan, Silkeborg isn't the easiest to get, so that's probably why the tickets are still available. easiest to get to. Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, it takes a plane ride, which is only, I don't know, an hour and a half or so. But then the journey from the airport to the to that area is not quite so straightforward. Martin, do you think the postponement will suit some managers? Chelsea with the change of manager, Liverpool with the current poor run of form. That's a good point. That's an interesting point. Quite possibly, it means that Graham. What's his name, has a bit more time with the Chelsea players to get them. Quite an interesting appointment, wasn't it? Him becoming the manager of Chelsea. It's a change. Chelsea have always gone for the big name managers, haven't they? They've always gone for the Mourinhos and all these managers, and now they've gone for the ex-Brighton manager. Interesting. So yes, it possibly will suit Chelsea to have a bit more time, and Liverpool with a poor run of form. Yeah, quite possibly as well. But in a way, it's such a shame because, one of these teams might have come out the victors of the game. I don't know. Maybe it might have been a dull 0-0, which would have suited everybody else. But good point. Good evening to you, Garino. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Hammerette. Not all of them, but many Liverpool fans have shown disrespect in the past, so makes sense not to risk embarrassment. And this is what I was actually going to mention and talk about. Apparently, I don't know what it is, the history of it. Someone tell me. I should know, but I'm not quite with it in terms of why they keep putting the royal family down. And yes, that is one of the reasons why. Another reason is the Chelsea game was meant to be the day before the funeral in London. That wasn't going to be easy to be policed, but I think they're quite grateful at the fact that they were playing against Liverpool, which double whammy for them, I guess. Garino saying good evening to everyone. Chris, I was speaking to a guy at work whose brother works for Sky, and they're saying that some games postponed due to the lack of TV vans, as majority covering the Queen. Not sure how to. That's quite possible. If you think about, I'm not going to talk about TV vans being essential services, but other services, the police, the ambulances and all that sort of stuff, kind of have to be prepared. Fire brigade and so on. But TV vans are quite possible. But then our game is being televised on Sunday. It's been chosen to be televised. I think one of the games that was, I guess it would have been the Chelsea-Liverpool game has been cancelled. So that would have been televised. But they've now decided to televise the Everton-West Ham game. So I don't know. Good evening, Schmiegel. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Daniela, the test was played because the test had already started on Thursday. Yeah, fair play. But they could have just said, we'll take a couple of days break and then continue the game into this week, etc. But I don't know. I don't know how those rules work. Clive, happy that it's my birthday weekend again. Newcastle rescheduled. Beer o'clock. Happy birthday to you, mate. What you saying that it's your birthday in the week of the 17th, 18th? Well, advanced happy birthday to you then, Keith. Also, policing resources are being stretched with aid but from both Scotland and London. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Good evening to you, Andrew. Is the LFC game cancelled? Yes, it is, because they disrespected. I don't think it's because they did. I think it helps having the game against Chelsea. It would have been cancelled anyway. Whoever Chelsea were going to play this weekend, I think they just couldn't risk having that game being held. I know the Brentford game is on, but that's on a Saturday, and maybe that's a lower risk game, Brentford against Arsenal, than the Chelsea-Liverpool game. Good evening to you, Juha. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Clive, my actual point was, do you fancy co-hosting the Mad Weekend with me? When? Let me know, and let's see what we can set up. John, good evening to you. FCSB were not only magnificent during the singing of the national anthem, but throughout the whole match, I thought their support was superb. It absolutely was. We were quite flat. We were quite flat. Is it because fans don't fancy these so-called smaller teams? Are we going to get the same against Stiltborg when they come to visit us in a few weeks' time? And then we're going to be absolutely rammed to the rafters against Anderlecht? I kind of think it will be. I think that's a shame. I think that's a real shame, because if that's the reason why we only sold 35,000 tickets, and the understanding is at least 10,000 of them were meant to have gone to Romanian fans. Kent, we also got some very good press as club and fans for respect we showed to the Queen. It was a very moving moment. I totally agree. It was. It showed how you can be respectful. Like I said again, you do not have to be a royalist, but to show respect, fair play. I think we did it right. Who else have we got in the chat? Let's scroll down. Good evening, Eamon. In my opinion, I say they switched it because Everton fans won't boo the Queen's passing, whereas the Liverpool fans will. Yeah, there is a lot of consensus about that. Hammerette, the Liverpoolians boo because of the hardships during Thatcher's stint, I believe, 40 years ago, and they still do it. Blame that on the Tories, not on the royal family. I don't want to become political, but there you go. Let's go into the next part of the show, shall we? And it's all about... Just a little bit of update news on the women's team and the under 18s and under 21s. Not a lot because, as I said, no games have been played. Hopefully, all the fixtures are returned. Apparently, the women's and I should know this. I should know who they're playing. I think it's Man United. I think the women's team start their season off, and I think they've got Man United this weekend. So good luck to them. But last minute transfer news last week, Yui Hasegawa. Now, she was doing extremely well during pre-season, smashing them in from long range, etc., etc. Japanese international. She ended up signing for Man City in the last day of the transfer window on a 3-year deal. 25-year-old shown some great promise. I mean, she's been with West Ham already, and it's not that she only just recently joined, but she was showing some great promise in the pre-season, and then she signed for Man City. However, out goes one Japanese player, in comes another. Honoka Hayashi has joined us, the 12th summer signing for the women's team this summer. Another Japanese international. She's 24-year-old, so she's 1 year younger than Hasawaga. My God, my pronunciations. She's 1 year younger than Hasegawa, who left for Man City. She's an attacking midfielder. She's joined us from Swedish club Damallsvenskan. When she was with that club, she scored 7 goals. She was only with them for 1 season. She scored 7 goals for them last season. She's also got 16 caps for the Japanese international team, and she'll be starring alongside another Japanese international who was signed in the summer, Risa Shimizu, who recently signed. So there you go. Welcome. And we hope you do well. So I've got it written down here. The first game of the new Premier League women's season is due to start this coming weekend. We got Everton at Chigwell, not Man United. So good luck to the ladies, and I hope you smash it. Right. So what other news have we got? Well, what about the academy? Well, no games were on. That's certainly not an academy player, is it? No games were on. At the weekend, it was the under 21s who were meant to meet Man United, but hopefully that happens this coming weekend. The under 21s have had a very poor start to the season. They've lost 5 in 5, unfortunately, and the only reason why they're not bottom of the league is because Blackburn Rovers have got a worse goal difference than ours. So let's hope, let's wish them well in the games that are coming up. And also the under-18s have had a storming start to their season. Not only have won all 3 of their Premier League under-18s games, they've also been smashing it in the cup competitions as well. And this weekend they host Aston Villa at Little Heath. So we wish them both well. That was so short, I shouldn't have even done a video for it. So let's go back into the chat. Eamon, I say the switch. Yeah, done that one. Kent, there was loads of Bucharest fans in front of me. I know if it happened. I know it happens, but the club are letting it happen. You know what, mate? The club let it happen because we didn't sell hardly any tickets. I'm not saying it's right. We had half a dozen Romanians fans in front of us as well. It was obvious because when we scored, they didn't cheer, and they kind of looked interested when West Ham had the ball. But we knew that they were Romanian fans, and it would have been. I won't lie. Like I said, I'm not suggesting it's right, but it would have been even emptier without them there. Clive Hasegawa has left. Yeah, mate. Yeah. I know you're taking the piss. Good evening, Cockney Buccaneer. Whatever the Scousers' problem is, it's time they grew up and got over it. If it was about the way they were treated, and well, let's see how people are going to feel in another couple of years under the Tories, and then we'll all be revolting against them. Hammer it, Kent. Yeah, many were around me too. To be fair, they showed respect, but shouldn't be allowed in our end. Yeah, I agree, and I'm not saying it's right, but our stadiums were quite empty last Thursday. Ashley lost a good player there. Hasagawa. Are you all winding me up? You are, aren't you? Good evening to you, Darren. How are you, mate? Women start against Everton. I got it right in the end, mate. Thank you. Cockney, Honaka, not as good. Not. I'm not. I'm not going there. I'm not going there, mate. You, I'm not going there. Kent, happy. Most were some jumped up when they scored, but many clubs should have given them some more official tickets for the game. Yeah, they should have, decided if we weren't going to sell out, they should have decided to block out a section for them. I totally agree. James, good evening to you. No doubt the Scousers will find a way to show the victim card, fixture congestion. Who cares about them? Honestly, I hope they finish mid-table this season. Dan, do you think the numbers were lower because it's ECL instead of EL? It could be. I think it's a combination, to be honest with you. I think it's a combination of, but I bet you the game against Anderlecht is going to be pretty full. It won't be packed out, but I bet you will get a good crowd, a good 45, 50,000 for that. I think people aren't interested. And if we get, you know what's going to happen, don't you, Dan? We get through the group stages and then we start facing other teams. All of a sudden, people are going to be begging for tickets. What the club should do is those that have bothered to buy the tickets for these three games, the group stages, they should have first shot. Well, we get them anyway, season ticket holders, etc. But I think that's what's going to happen. I think there's an element of it not being Europa League, but I also think that people are being a bit picky and choosy as to what games they want to go to. Look at the Silkeborg game as an example. Still only 400 tickets sold, still over 300 tickets available, and that game's in 3 days' time. I think people pick and choose what games they want to go to. Eamon, the reports were the staff were first kicking them out, but afterwards they were told to let them stay. From what I saw, no one was getting kicked out in the first place. We saw a couple to our side get kicked out, but yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, they stayed. They didn't really cause, I know it's not right, but they didn't really cause too much of a fuss. Kent, price of seats were too high for me as well. I agree with that. They should have thought about it very carefully and maybe charged an awful lot less for the ticket prices as well. Dan, again, I agree. You know full well, if we make a semi-final, we won't be able to get an away ticket. Exactly my point, mate. Hammerette, Daniela, it can't happen, to be honest. What did Daniela say? Daniela said there should be a place for where fans can mix. You know, some clubs have that abroad, not here, but some clubs do have that. Hammerette, it can't happen, to be honest. There's always some jumped up twats who can't handle their beer, and then there's us. That is true. And usually, unfortunately, we're the ones that end up trying to fight people because they shouldn't be there. Daniela tried to get the £19 ticket, but could not. So the weather was crappy, probably stopped to walk. It was shitty. It was horrible. John, would be great if we could find another Francois van der Elst when we play Anderlecht. Well, do we need him? I don't know. There you go, Kent. Fulham have got a neutral zone. Or they had a neutral zone. Chris, I also think people are making cutbacks to their spending now. That is a good point, to be honest with you. I'll take that on board, which made things worse. Clubs should have made tickets cheaper, especially for families. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Good evening, Neil. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining at 5:25 a.m. I promise me you do not sleep. I know you don't sleep. I'm convinced that you don't sleep. Right, let's go into the next part of the show, shall we? Some player updates for you. And, there are actually quite a few of those, so which is good because I'm really finding it difficult, struggling to actually find some information to give you. But I'm not making it up. You know, these are proper player updates. So let's start off with Gianluca Scamacca. How many of you have read these stories that apparently we're upset with him? The fan base is getting a bit weary of him and, no patience for him. And And apparently, the Italian newspapers are suggesting that we've already sort of uh, getting restless about him. What a pile of absolute tosh. There is nothing to suggest that West Ham fans are growing tired of Gianluca Scamacca. I mean, why would we? We know what David Moyes does. David Moyes brings players in slowly. He won't introduce them straight away. So Scamacca has had some game time in the Premier League. He's had more game time, more minutes in the Europa Conference League. He's scored 2 goals in that competition already as well. Why would we as fans be upset with him and growing impatient with him? This is the way you start rumors, and this is the way you start unsettling fans and start making people get that engine going of like, oh my God, oh, maybe we should all be upset with Gianluca Scamacca. Absolutely no reason to be so. The rumors are false. The Italian newspapers or the Italian social media groups are kind of full of it, suggesting that we're upset with Scamacca. I've not heard anyone mention that. Tell me if I'm wrong in the chat. But a very weird story that came out last week. Paqueta, we know that Lucas Paquetá or Paqueta, however you want to pronounce his name, is going to be called into the Brazil squad to play games against Ghana and Tunisia on the 23rd and 27th of September, respectively. And we're also waiting to find out which of our players might make the relevant international teams. There's a possibility that Jared Bowen is not going to make the England squad. That's the rumour being bandied around. Apparently, Man United players, here we go again, who are in form, apparently might get picked over him. That would be such a shame. And I'd be worried if that happens, to be quite honest with you. I know Bowen it hasn't started well this season. And he could see he's trying hard to keep his momentum going. But the harder he's trying, the harder it's difficult for him to get into the swing of things. I think the idea of giving him the penalty last week against FCSB was a clever move to try and get it, because it looked like it raised his game. But Paqueta is the first player in our squad to have been selected or confirmed that he'll be selected for international duty. What about some players out on loan? Well, Arthur, good old Arthur. At the time of writing this, Arthur was making his 6th appearance for Turkish side Besiktas against Istanbul Başakşehir. I can't pronounce it. Istanbul club. The final score ended where Arthur's team lost 1-0. But in the previous 5 games, Masuaku's been involved in 4 wins and a draw, and he's doing rather well. Bring him back. Why did we ever let him go? Nikola Vlasic, another player that's also having a very decent run in his loan spell at Torino. He was in action at the weekend against Inter Milan. Inter Milan won that game 1-0, but he's also played he's had 5 starts for the Italian team, and he came on as a sub for one of the other games. And he played a full 90 minutes in the game against Inter, and he scored 3 goals so far. 3 goals in succession. So well done to him. I'm really pleased for him. Now, many people are saying, does that mean he should come back and play for West Ham, etc.? There's that possibility. But you've also got to look into the fact that Italian football is very technical and very skillful, but it's very slow. Players like Vlasic get an awful lot more time on the ball than they would do in the Premier League. So maybe there's that difference for you. Will he come back? I'm not so sure. I know David Moyes tried to sell him rather than loan him out during the summer transfer window, and I've got a feeling that he's found his home. He's found where he can be good. He can flourish. He can make an impact in games, and the Italian league sometimes suits certain players, and maybe that's the case for Nikola Vlasic. Right, there are no games in the under-18s and under 21s this week, as I said. So with players like, we've got a number of players out on loan: Emmanuel Longelo, Armstrong Oko Flex, Thierry Nevers, Dan Chesters, Mibo Odubeko. Excuse me. None of them were in action at the weekend. But the last game that Odubeko played, when he made his debut for Swansea, he said that he's hungry for more game time. He's glad he came to Swansea. He had a long chat with Flynn Downs about the move to Swansea, and Downs talked to him about how Swansea play their game: possession-based football with possession-based football with style and pace. And Okoflex said, this is the kind of team that I want to play for. So it's fantastic. I hope he does really well. I like Okoflex. Now, look, he's got 1 year left of his contract at West Ham United, and that ends when his loan spell at Swansea ends as well. I'm kind of hoping that we if he does really well, we negotiate with the player and we get him back to be part of the first team. But let's see what happens therein. Look, other players. Nathan Trott, he made his appearance about a week ago as a cup keeper for Visual BK. In the Danish league, but he was on the bench at the weekend in the 2-0 win over Hillerod. Joseph Anang is out injured, despite only just moving to Derby County in a freak accident during training. He fractured his wrist, and he'll be out for another 4 or 5 weeks. What else have we got? Well, other injury news, or is it injury news? We kind of don't know. Harrison Aspie, we don't know what is really going on. Look, a lot of us thought he was going to be part of the squad to play in the game last week against FCSB, but he wasn't in the team. He wasn't on the bench. And there was a suggestion when asked that only David Moyes can answer the situation with him. Then we were told he actually had a knock. He actually had a small injury, which is why he wasn't in the team. And now we're hearing that despite what happens by the end of this season, it looks like Ashby may be leaving regardless. He could leave in January. He may wait until the end of this season to leave. West Ham United have got to convince this young man. I think I said it in the show last week. West Ham have got to convince this young man that his future lies at the club, and that we don't want to sell him. Of course, it's important to give him a bit of game time, which is why I was surprised that he wasn't playing or wasn't part of the squad. I'm going to have to take people's word for it that he had a knock, which is why he didn't make an appearance. Now, he wasn't seen in training today for the game coming up against Silkeborg this Thursday. So maybe if he's still got the knock, that's still impacting his ability to be part of the squad. Don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out over the season. Let's hope we can convince him to stay. And talking of players that are back from injuries, a number of players were seen back from injury in training today. Aaron Creswell, he's recovered from his slight groin strain, so he's available for selection. But I think Creswell is going to be safe for the weekend game against Everton. I don't think there's a need or much of a necessity to bring him back for the Silkeborg game, unless, of course, he plays against Silkeborg and then Emerson plays against Everton at the weekend. Craig Dawson, well, we saw him come on as a very late sub in the game against FCSB last week. He's been training as well. He'll be ready for Silkeborg as well. And I'm going to go through the teams that I think are going to play in both the Silkeborg and the Everton games in a moment. But Dawson, he's been back in training, so he's available for selection. Maxwell Cornet, after the head injury against FCSB last Thursday, he was back in training as well. It would have been, I think it's got to be 10 days, isn't it, between a game if you've suffered a head injury. So I don't know if it was registered as a proper head injury or not. If it wasn't, he's available for the game against Silkeborg. If it was, he should be available for the game against Everton at the weekend. And Thomas Souček, he's also back in training and also available for the game against Silkeborg. But just like Creswell, I think Souček won't play, or certainly won't start in the game against Silkeborg, but maybe be a starter in the game against Everton at the weekend. Right, so what about the teams? Because apparently it's been suggested that David Moyes has got a dilemma, a selection dilemma, as who he should play. And it centres mainly on Flynn Downs because he had a fantastic game against FCSB last Thursday. And now everybody's calling for him to start. Start every game. Start every game. Make sure you start all the games from here on in. I'm not so sure. You know, I think he had a great game. And I don't want to put down FCSB, and I don't want to put down the player, but you've got to look at the quality of the opposition. FCSB, by FCSB fans, have suggested that their club is round about a mid-table-ish championship level team. They looked a little bit better, so I'll give them sort of mid to halfway up the league, a bit further up the league in the championship. But you could see that their quality wasn't great. but they gave us problems. And one standout was definitely Flynn Downs. And I don't think Flynn Downs is yet ready. I would like to see him get some game time, coming off the bench maybe, and get more of a flavour about the Premier League. That's the way you're going to start being part of the team and being part of the selection process. But I don't think that the call to start him, I think it's a little bit early. You might have different opinions in the chat, and I'll get round to those in a minute. But I'm thinking about the players primarily that will start in the Europa Conference. And these are the players that I think will have more of a start than other players. Areola in goal, that's almost a given. I myself think he should be playing in the Premier League, but there you go. Areola in goal. And then on the right-hand side, you'll have a choice between Soufal and, a choice between Johnson and Ashby. I know Soufal played, but that was because, from what we understand, Ashby was injured and Johnson's out with a hamstring injury. So it kind of almost was no choice that Soufal was going to start. But with players coming back from back to fitness, I think Ashby and Johnson will probably share that role in the Europa Conference. Out on the left, quite possibly, it'll be Emerson there. And then in the Premier League, well, I'll get to the Premier League teams in a minute. And with Craig Dawson and Ogbonna back to kind of get in fitness, I still think Kerr will start on Thursday until these guys are fully fit. But then moving forward, you're likely to see Dawson and Ogbonna as the starting centre-backs in the Europa Conference. And then in midfield, you can have your choice. You could put Souček in there, but I think Downs will get more game time. I think you'll start seeing Connor Coventry having some game time and Declan in there as well. And then up front, I reckon it'll be Benrahma, Cornet, and Lanzini. Lanzini was a bit, he wasn't there in the first half against FCSB last week. Didn't show much output. But I think moving forward, I still think those are the likely players that will more than likely start in the Europa Conference League. And then up front, Scamacca, which is unfortunate because I like Scamacca to maybe start in the Premier League. Right, what about Premier League players? Well, in goal, Fabianski, goes without saying. And then when it comes to the right back, Soufal and Johnson will be competing for that. And then when Agurd is back, I think you will then start seeing Kera, Zuma, and Agurd as starters. I'm not saying that the other players won't play, Dawson and Ogbonna, etc. But I think as starters in the Premier League, you're more likely to see a selection of these three players if it's a back two, or maybe all three of them if it's a back three playing. Out on the right, I'm still not convinced whether Emerson will start in the Premier League. I think that will go more to Creswell, who'll get more starts over Emerson. In midfield, in the Premier League, it's going to be the usual, Souček and Declan. And then up front, I think you're likely to see, well, you're not likely to see, I think you'll definitely see Bowen starting more games. I think you'll see Fornals and Paqueta starting. It's not either or. I think Fornals and Paqueta starting. And then maybe, just maybe, there'll be the odd occasion, depending on the games, you might see Cornet or you might see Benrahma starting. But I think our front three behind the front man is likely to be Bowen, Fornals and Paqueta. And then up front, you can argue. I think Antonio will get the nod more times than Scamacca, but I think we'll still see Scamacca starting quite a few games as well. So they'll be shared. Now, I'm going to be interested to see what you guys say. So let's go into the chat and see what you guys say. Good evening, Mice Collective. They should have a home zone, away zone, neutral zone, and for some clubs, a plastic fan zone. Oh, good evening to you. Hammer, good evening, mate. West Ham need to go get Tuchel before he gets snapped up. I read those stories earlier on that Tuchel could be one of them because apparently Tuchel, there's going to be a whole host of top European teams who are going to be nervous at Tuchel's start at Chelsea and may not want to select him to be the manager of their clubs. And then the teams that are sort of looking to aspire to improve, to get further up the table, this could be their opportunity to get a manager like Tuchel. I don't know. I'm still a Moyes man myself. I think it's been a poor start without a shadow of a doubt. But I think with all the players back from injury and the players, getting more and more game time, getting acclimatized to the Premier League, getting acclimatized to their teammates, I think you're going to start seeing a vast improvement in our performances from here on in. Hammer it. I think we would have sold Ashby if Johnson hadn't have got an injury. I think there's good possibility. But also, Amaret, we were looking at getting a replacement for him as well. For some reason, it seems Moyes wants, well, a bit of a wing back on that side. We've got Emerson on one side, and unfortunately, Johnson and Soufal aren't brilliant at being wing backs. And I think what Moyes wanted, because Ashby's very good at that, I think Moyes would have wanted to get someone in to replace Ashby to play as a bit more of a wing back. Good evening to you, Evan. I hope you're well, mates. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Mandy, Scammer is only 23. Scammer is only 2-3. 2-3. What have I missed there? What did I say? Have I done something wrong again? You're going to have to explain to me. Hammerit. So many negative things thrown about regarding Scamacca already. Isn't it weird? But is that coming from the fans? I'm not so sure that it is. I think it's coming from newspapers and from Italy as well, rather than over here. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I've not heard any fans start talking about Scamacca in a negative way. I hope I'm not wrong. Andrew, how can we? He's hardly played. Well, there you go. He actually has had a bit of game time, mate. Clive, Scamacca wants a 30-year contract. Twatter, exactly. Not just, oh, really? So is that where so are you telling me West Ham fans are already beginning to have a downer on Scamacca on Twitter? Good. I mean, Twitter is a world of its own, isn't it? And so many people buy into it and get drawn into it. Isn't that weird? Schmeigel, Scamacca is a good player. And even better, if we play to his strengths, let's not go down the Hilaire route with this player. We've got to play to his strengths. We've got to play to Paqueta's strengths as well. Paqueta has already said, and when I remember when we were talking about potentially buying Paqueta, and I talked about his time at Milan, when they played a 4-2-3-1 formation that didn't suit him. I talked about his time in Lyon, where the manager there changed the formation for the player, and they played a 4-3-3, and he flourished. Now, Scamacca would also flourish from a 4-3-3. I'm kind of hoping David Moyes does that. Would it be so bad to have a 4-3-3? If he wants it to be defensive-minded, you can play Souček, you can play Declan, and you can play Fornals as a 3 in front of the 4, and then you can just let the front 3 run riot. You know, the likes of Paqueta, Scamacca, Bowen, Benrahma, whoever it is that you choose. We've got to play to their strengths. Eamon, for me, I always give foreign players a season to settle in. I thought that was always the case with foreign players. What has changed? Nothing. Teams wanting instant success, which is wrong. And this is the thing that worries me. And there's been a hell of a lot of talk this season. Look, I'm not going to deny our form has not been great, you know, and if you carry that in, I did a show last week or the week before talking about our form, etc. And people are saying it's relegation form. Well, it's not quite. It's not far away, but it's not quite. If you look at the last year, we would have cleared relegation. So I'm not saying that all is rosy. I know things aren't great, but I try to put perspective into it. Last season, we were competing in the FA Cup, in the Europa League, in the Premier League, etc., knowing full well we had a thin squad, which was really, really difficult to manage. And it caught up with us. Yes, you could argue we should have bought players in the January transfer window, but it caught up with us. And so I think that form, I think Moyes at one point, I can't remember what game it was. At one point, you knew he was going for the Europa League. You knew all of a sudden something clicked and he went, that's where I'm putting my main resources in. And that did affect our Premier League form without a shadow of a doubt. Look, we haven't started great this season, but it's a season of transition. Let's not forget that. We've got to understand 8 players in are not going to just, like you've just said, mate, are not going to settle in straight away. That's going to take time. There's been a change of the guard. And with that, it takes time. Andrew. I take Harry Maguire's not going either then. Oh, in the England team, let's find out, mate. Let's find out. I bet he will. Epic, good evening to you. Masuaku's a Rolls Royce of a player. We should recall him as soon as possible. Yeah, after you, mate. Amaret, many fans have no patience. I don't get what's going on here. I'm really worried about our fan base. I don't mean that in a horrible way, but it does concern me that our fan base is expecting that straight away. This is a transitional year. I don't think anyone wanted it to be a transitional year, but that's the way it's worked out. With so many players leaving, that's the way it's worked out. Moyes had no choice but to get so many players. And we've got to be patient. We've got to be patient. Kent, I'm waiting for fans to start slagging Skamaka like some fans slagged Haller. It was neither player's fault, and we did not play to Haller's strengths. And at the moment, we're not playing to Skamaka's. Spot on. Kent, you and I were in an awful lot of agreement last when Haller was here. You kept saying the phrase, feed Haller and he will score. And like, I know people are going to go, yeah, he went off to some farmers league. That's why he was scoring all those goals. But hang on a minute. He also did it in the Champions League. Was he the top goal scorer in the end in the Champions League? And had he not been, got his illness and hopefully he's recovering well from his cancer, I bet you when he's back, true on form, he'll be smashing it in the Bundesliga as well. Dan, the trouble with some of the fan base is there's no patience. Absolutely agree. Skamaka wasn't great against GCSB, but he was ill. Bang on. Absolutely bang on. And I actually said it in the review. I thought he was brought back a bit too soon. He didn't look right. He was getting in the right positions, and I'm not worried. And neither am I. Schmeichel, Stelasuaku and Masuaku are best friends. I know I saw them drinking together in the car on horses. Yeah, but he didn't put his hand in his pocket for his money. Daniela, sounds like someone's trying to tap him up, but they are fans. Some fans are calling him the new Haller. Unbelievable. Howard, are they playing Vlasic through the middle? They are indeed, Howard. And I know what you're going to say. Play him in his rightful position. And I don't disagree with that at all. And I'm not trying to make excuses for why he didn't do well here. Yeah, he said himself, my best position is in the middle of the park. That's where I do my best business. He's proven it. But still maintain the Premier League is a lot faster than the Italian league. But mind you, their defenders are a lot tougher. Eamon, sorry, I meant to say fans, not teams. Yeah, want instant success because of the money involved. Absolutely agree, mate. Hammerette. Vlasic doing well is a mix of right positions, decent running games, slower league. Good luck to him. Absolutely agree. Eamon, let's face it, these players had a chance in the Premier League and they wasn't up to the standard of it. I guess there's some of that, but I think I like Vlasic and maybe he'll get his chance if he comes back. Mandy, Antonio and Vardy never broke through till late on. There you go. Some players take time. How old was Vardy before he got his breakthrough? He was in his mid-20s or something, wasn't he? Eamon, difference is Antonio and Vardy looked like their chance. They took their chance when they got it. People like Vlasic didn't, unfortunately. Yeah, well, I'm glad we got differing views on this. I kind of like Vlasic. I would have liked for him to have stayed. It would have meant not having to, mind you, if he'd stayed, we wouldn't have signed Paqueta. So there's swings and roundabouts. Good evening, Vinay. Ashby should convince Moyes that he's 35 years old and he might get a game. Barney, mate, what are you yawning about? Have I bored you? Oh, mate. Hammerette. Vlasic didn't get long enough on the pitch, in my opinion, but some players just aren't good enough in the Premier League. I can't see him returning. I don't think he will. Given the Pac-Man had his shirt. Yeah, can you imagine him coming back and going, that's my shirt? Mind you, Lanzini will leave and then Paqueta will get the number 10 shirt. Sorry, Hammerette. Ashley, Silkborg have enough. Yes, I know. God, you're stealing my thunder. You know what? I haven't loaded. I knew I didn't load it. So I'm going to keep you talking. What can I find it? There it is. Is it that one? I hope it is. Yeah, they got an artificial pitch and I was going to talk about that later on. You're stealing my thunder. Daniela. I'm not too bothered if Bowen does not get picked for England. I hope Rice is left out as well. Rice will go to the World Cup. And he'll probably get picked for the upcoming games as well. I would be worried about Bowen's demeanor if he doesn't get picked. I think it will hit him. I think it will hit him hard because he finished last season on such a high, and he was like, he knew he was going to get into that England team. And I think starting poorly might have an impact on him if he doesn't get picked for the England team. Eamon, I remember when Roller Dice killed the youth team by putting them in a cup game, and that was against Nottingham Forest? I think I remember. I could be wrong. And I wonder what happened to those youth players. Not a lot of them remained, did they? You got to be good. You got to be good at in the youth system. That's why I say, I know people dismiss the youth system and go, oh, well, it's not worth it. But if they're cutting the mustard there and really showing some promise, then if they make it through, Ben Johnson did it. Of course, Declan did it. I think Ashby could be the next one, and maybe Coventry. I'm really pleased that we didn't sell Coventry, and he might be a squad player, but that's absolutely okay because there'll be certain games that the likes of Coventry will be able to play in. So, yeah. Clive, how about putting Dawson next to Rice? No. Graham, hello, mate, from Alberta. I hope you're well, mate. Personally, I would like us to stick with Emerson for the next 2 games so that we can have a proper look at what he brings to the team. He did get caught napping in the goal against FCSB, I grant you. But good shout. Good shout. But can you see Moyes doing that? I'm dreading the Lanzini part coming up. I know. I'm sorry, but I think it might be his last season, to be honest with you. Greg, good evening to you. What's going on Thursday? We playing on? We are, mate. We absolutely are. It's not been cancelled. It's on. It's definitely on. It's only the games in and around London and the key games or high-profile games that have been cancelled, like from PSV against Arsenal. This Thursday's been cancelled. The Chelsea game against Liverpool's been cancelled, and so on. Keith, the national team has an annoying habit of damaging our players. I'd rather Bowen wasn't involved and Rice, to be honest. But don't you think it shows how far they've come by having them selected? It's one of those things. I understand it. I don't want our players to go out and get injured, etc., etc. But at the same time, I'm proud of the fact that our players are picked for international duty. I think that shows just how far our team has come when players like Bowen have been selected. But I get it. But I'm just worried about Bowen's demeanour, to be honest with you. Clive, he's going in January. I'm kind of sure of it. Who are you talking about? Is that Ashby or is that Lanzini? If it's Ashby, he may do. If it's Lanzini, I think it'll be the end of the season. Ashley, play downs on Thursday. Rest Souček for the Everton game. Yes, I agree. I think that's exactly what will happen. Eamon, love Lanzini. Unfortunately, this goose is cooked. And when it comes to the Premier League now, I hate saying it, but he looked so lackluster last week against FCSB. Howard, you should go and see him play at River Plate. I'm sure he would love to see you over there. There you go. You should all take a trip over there. Good evening, Mr. Rolf. How are you? See you Thursday. Oh, no, we can't see you Thursday. We're not playing at home. What am I talking about? I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Kent. Areola, Ashby, Dawson. Areola, Ashby, if he's fit and if he's available. Dawson, Oggy, Emerson, Downs, Coventry, Benrahma, Lanzini, Scamacca. Hang on a minute. Is that what I put up as well? Let's have a look. So, Areola, yes. Ashby, well, I said either Ashby or, well, Johnson's injured. So maybe Ashby's if he's available. Oggy, yeah. Dawson, yeah. Downs, yeah. Coventry, I think it'll be Declan. Benrahma, Lanzini, Cornet. Mate, we think, honestly, are you my twin brother that I've never met? You know, we think alike. Thank you for that, mate. Good evening to you, Trini. How are you? Lanzini has been great for us, just never got back to his best after the injury. That is unfortunately true. He's shown glimpses, but not consistently, unfortunately. Dan, think it's time for Lanzini to be moved on now. Really doesn't give us much from the start or off the bench. Better players available for us now. It's such a shame. And it's horrible. It's not that we're being cruel to Lanzini. I've loved watching him play. I think he's been fantastic for us. I think someone mentioned about the injuries and he's not been the same since. He's shown glimpses, but not consistently, unfortunately. It's such a shame. Such a lovely fella as well. Hammerette, Lanzini has been great for... Yeah, got back to it. Sorry, I just did that one. Let's scroll down a bit more. Greg, it's just that injury. He lost that spring he had beforehand. Absolutely. Couldn't bear it in the end, Hammerette, as a Massa scenario where we're dreading coming on the pitch. Oh, dear. Poor Masuaku. He's doing great where he is. He should stay there. Think Kaira will be a long-term right back. Think Kera will be a long-term right back. That's a really good shout. And many people are suggesting that as well. But I'd like to see Kera alongside a Gerd, mate. I really would. And then 2 flying right backs and left backs on the pitch as well. James, the Scamacca out brigade wouldn't be related to the Moyes out numpties by any chance. Just asking for a friend. Very good shout. Tuchel won't manage any club that is not in the Champions League. But like I said, the story out is that apparently these top teams are worried about what he did at Chelsea. He didn't show. Well, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, I'm really surprised that he got sacked so early. Agree with you, Graham. Would like Emerson to start the next few games, so long as he wakes up for those. He got caught napping for that goal against FCSB. Dan, mad to think Tuchel has a win percentage of 60% at Chelsea and still got the chop. And do you know what? That win rate is less than David Moyes'. Believe it or not, Premier League wins, David Moyes has got a better win percentage at West Ham. At West Ham. Yeah, go and check your stats books. I'm telling you, it's true. Greg, James Wonk, there's Gamaka out brigade. They know we can't sack him. Right. Daniela, Tuchel not coming to West Ham. Get real. We turned Spurs down because they weren't top 4. He's not coming to us. Not suggesting it for a minute, but apparently people think that we can go and get him. Dan, mad to think Tuchel's got that one. Thank you, mate. Who else we got? Good evening, Jake. How are you? We need Paqueta starting every game. And he will, give him time. He's settling in. I know we all hate this thing about what Moyes does. It takes time to settle them in, etc., etc. It is what he does. And I think, I don't think Paqueta will start on Thursday, but I think he'll certainly start against Everton at the weekend. Howard, Twitter, toxic wasteland, never use it. You know what? I hate being on it. I have to do it to try and promote. I don't even go on there. I don't even go on there to promote my shows, but I try to, and I keep forgetting. I think, all right, yeah, right. What else am I got to do? Yeah, I promote it. Yeah. Oh, Twitter. I forgot to do it. I can't stand it either. Dan, a 4-3-3 is what would suit us best, in my opinion. Rice, Fornals, Paqueta in midfield. Oh, you're going for Paqueta there. Okay, good shout. Bowen, Cornet playing off Scamacca. I like that. I'll make you right. I like that. Yeah, fair play. Clive, Paqueta, Cornet, and Fornals are the perfect players to play to Scamacca's strengths. Absolutely. Kent, Allaire slagged off by people not service to play. Haller slagged off by people, no service. If he played to his strengths, and I'm scared Scamacca will go the same way because in games he's played already, he'll already look disconnected from the rest of the team during the game. I agree. I mean, what he does is he does drop a lot deeper than Haller did, but your striker shouldn't have to drop deep to pick the ball up, should he? I'm worried about that too, mate. I am as well. Paul, Scamacca is going to be awesome for us. Yeah, so long as we play to his strengths like everybody has been saying. Forgive me. I'm going to scroll down, so do forgive me if I don't read out all your comments. Paul Hilaire from Greg. He went to the Netherlands to pick up an award, and all his hair has gone due to treatment. I know. Saw that. I saw that the other day. Good luck to him. What have I done? Trini, they're not fans. It's the FIFA generation. They have no clue about actual football. It's a shame that we've got to this. It kind of really, really does worry me. It really does worry me that fans are so impatient. Lest we forget, only 2 seasons ago, we were fighting relegation, or just over 2 seasons ago. It's really, really bizarre. Keith, I think that we have a lot of new fans who have arrived after a couple of good seasons. These fans are the want it now element of society. Us old boys know to be patient. I'd like to say that's true, but there are some old fans who are doing the same thing, which makes me wonder. I mean, but in fairness, you're absolutely right. It's mostly, and I don't disrespect our young fans. They're our future, but they haven't learned the hard way, have they, Keith? They haven't seen us get relegated. They haven't seen us through the really, really, really bad times, and I guess a lot of them think, oh, European football, we've been in that forever, haven't we? If only. Good evening to you. Danny, how are you, mate? Wimbledon to a Worthing hammer. How are you, mate? Thanks for joining. Everyone wants Budgie. Hang on, mate. What's going on here? Hammer it. Downs is our Rice replacement. I'm sure of it. We have him until 2027. I believe believe with an extra year. You believe correctly. He looked class at the last week. He absolutely did. Dabs. But do you think he's ready to start a Premier League game? I'm not so sure. Dabs, I want to see Ekwa get some game time soon. He's class. I'll tell you something, people. I know I do this, and I know what happens next. Every time I big up a youth player, an academy player, all of a sudden it's like, oh, where did they go? Pierre Ekwa is the new Declan. We got him under our own noses. Pierre Ekwa is the new Declan Rice. Why? He was also taken from the Chelsea Youth Academy. He is a machine in the middle of the park. He's getting better and better. You should see the size of this lad. I mean, Declan is up there, and so's Ekwa as well. And I'm with you, Dabs. I think he's a very good player. Ekwa playing well for Newport. No, Ekwa's not in Newport. That's Thierry Nevers, who's at Newport, I think. There's one of them out there. Is it Chester's or Nevers? One of them's playing for Newport, but Ekwa is not gone out on loan. Trini. In the Premier League, it's all about running and tracking back. Does not help the more technical players at all, which is why we need those players to do that for the likes of Scamacca and the likes of Paqueta. But fair play to Paqueta. He's been dropping back. Much admiration for him. Getting back, getting stuck in. I bet Moyes must have been salivating. He's thinking, I've just spent nearly £50 million on another defensive midfielder. Not really. Bino, Downs also he should tell Moyes he's 37 years old. Otherwise, it doesn't get any game time. Sharky, really hope Allaire gets back to good health. Absolutely. Shame we didn't see the best of him at West Ham. But like people say, if we played to his strengths, we would have done. Anyway, it's gone. Howard, give this man a thumbs up in chat. Best show. Thank you. Much appreciated. Between 8 and 11 or sometime around that. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Really appreciated. Thank you for reminding me, Howard. Hammerette. Us oldies know what it's like to be up and down as a hammer. Old, you? Leave off. Don't start giving me that oldie bit. Oh, in those days, she's a spring chicken. Don't give me that. Dabs. I'm not Antonio's biggest fan. However, recently he's been looking the part. Second half sub, impact sub. When he came on against FCSB, he ran the show. But also, if you look at the game against Chelsea compared to the way he played against FCSB, the long balls in the Chelsea game were all straight down the middle, and he had to compete against 1-2 defenders who were roughing him up at Chelsea, etc. But they were not the balls, and this is why I want Areola in goal, because Areola will knock it out wide for out into the channels that Antonio can pick up, have time to turn, run at the defenders. Whereas in the Chelsea game, he was in the middle, they were hitting him, and he had 2 or 3 defenders around him, couldn't do anything, being pulled down, etc., not playing to his best. And if you want to play to someone's strengths, hit it down the flanks. Antonio's great at doing that. I'm not talking about him going and becoming a winger, because I get frustrated at that when he does that, but getting it just inside the opposition's half, out in the flanks, and running with it. Running infield or running wide or whatever to bring other players in. Against Chelsea, we weren't doing that for him. Against FCSB, we were doing just that. And he looked brilliant. He looked really effective. Trini, I don't get the Bowen demeanour thing. He was amazing for 2 seasons just playing his game. As soon as he gets in and around the England team, his form drops. I don't know what's gone on. Apparently, when Moyes talked about players coming back from to pre-season, and he talked about one player coming back that was not in form, put on a bit of weight, etc. And I thought he was talking about Zuma. Apparently, he was talking about Bowen. So maybe it's taken him a bit of time to get back up to full match fitness. We're going to see the best of him. Don't worry. James, okay, his finishing was poor, granted, but Scamacca still got himself into fantastic positions. And at the time, I kept him on, but the Mosiah knows best. Daniela. Football in the big league, i.e. the top 6 in Europa. Europe is a squad game, and we have to accept that. So do the players. Absolutely 100% agreed. Ken, you have to be exceptional to make it through the youth system. Now our aim is to make first-team players, but we do create players that go on and have decent careers a lot. I think we've got 1 or 2 players in the academy. Oh, I don't want to say it, but yes. That I think are going to come through. Keith, still, yes, of course, mate. Proud of our internationals. Just worried about our club injuries. All our players are back, apart from Johnson and Agard. I think we've got every other player back. My understanding is. Mice Collective. Is Moyes like a knife fighter? Given a .44 Magnum, will he know how to use it? Our West Ham fans make my day. Greg, I'm going to be stupidly sad when Oggy goes. One of my most favourite players we've ever had. Agreed. I am too. And you know that Oggy knows it's his last season. I think I said a few weeks ago when he does a few interviews, he seems a little bit emotional. Oh boy, what a player he's been. What an absolute diamond of a footballer. Absolute rock. Absolutely love him. Tony Hammers, good evening to you, mate. Youth who played Forest, Danny Excuse me, just had something fly my eye. Youth who played Forest, Danny Whitehead, Seb Leggett, George Moncur, Dan Potts, Callum Driver, Blair Turgott. Don't know where they are now. Wow, you're going back. You imagine all those names. Are you Nigel Khan in disguise, Tony? Hammerette, sausage. Yeah, Oggy is a favourite. Bless him, but he looks very slow compared to Kera. Fucking hell, leave off. A bloody jet plane looks slow compared to Kera at the moment. He's dynamite, isn't he? He's fantastic. Ken, think we should have moved heaven and earth to get Aaron Wan-Bissaka. You said this, mate. Yeah, during the transfer window. From Man United, he can play right back, right wing back. There's a real good player there, and Soufal needs to be replaced soon if we want next level. I don't know. I think Soufal is in his last season as well. I think we've got about 5 players who are in the last season of their contracts, last year of their contracts at the club. Spencer, good evening to you. Can someone tell me the date and time of the Everton game? It's at 2:15 on Sunday, mate. It's been moved by 15 minutes, so it will start at 2:15 on Sunday. Clive, if you broadcasted Twitter, you will automatically promote the channel without any extra effort. Oh, well, you mean link it up here? Oh, I've not even tried that, to be honest with you. But doesn't that dampen? My understanding is when you broadcast to 2 channels, 2 or 3 different channels, all of a sudden it reduces the number of viewers through YouTube. I could be wrong. I don't know. I might do it for another show, but not this show. Let's scroll down. I'll tell you what. Why don't we stop there? And kiss of death. Every time I mention a young player, kiss of death. You're absolutely right. So let's go on to the next part of the show, shall we? And of course, unfortunately, have I done the youth? Have I done the players? Have I done them? Yeah, I've gone through that. Yeah. Match review. So, match review. I know I've done a review of it already, but that's me. West Ham Weekly talks about the whole week's news, so I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. But I give you an update of what happened last Thursday. Look, the game itself. I think the first half started all right. I think we were a little bit slow. There was a number of players that weren't off the mark. Skamaka, I think, as I said earlier on, was I think he came back too early. Lanzini didn't really look he was on form. This was the team that was put out. We were quite excited by the fact that young Flynn Downs was playing, and he did extremely well. Absolutely well. Look, Areola, I've discussed this so many times before, and I don't want to keep going over the same issues, but I think Areola, what he had to do in the game, I think he made 2 or 3 saves, but what he had to do, he did well. His distribution and his command of the 18-yard box, for me, is why he should be our number 1 keeper in the Premier League. Soufal, he had a decent game, but like we've already said, I think if Ashby or Ben Johnson were available, it's quite possible that they would have started over him. But the minute you saw Soufal in the press conference before the game, you knew he was going to be a starter. Kera, mate, what do we say about this man? Bargain, absolute bargain of the transfer window. What was it? 17 million or 10 million plus add-ons? I can't get my head around it, that PSG just let him go for such little money. And I can't get my head around why other teams didn't come in for him. A hidden gem. Absolutely brilliant. He continues to show what an absolute bargain he is. And he was one of the highlights of the game. Emerson, I think he came into his own. Certainly when he's wing back and attacking, he's fantastic. But I did criticize him for the goal that was scored because he did ball watch, and the player behind him, he had no idea that the player was there. Flynn Downs, absolutely decent performance, fantastic performance. And as I was saying earlier, people are now suggesting that he should be a starter in the Premier League games. I don't think so. I think he'll start against Silkeborg, and I think he'll continue to demonstrate how good he is. But to start in Premier League games, not just yet for me. But however, I think he's the sort of player that should be given more than 5 minutes at the end of a Premier League game, without a shadow of a doubt. Lanzini, we've already said, unfortunately, was a little bit anonymous in the game. And as I already said as well, Skamaka just didn't look match fit. And I think it's a shame that he was actually, look, for nothing else, it gave him 45 minutes of game time, a bit more match fitness, if nothing else. And Antonio, great impact sub. The way he came on, and I've talked about him running the channel, the flanks, etc., I think was absolutely perfect game for him. And it was good to see him in the form that he was in. And Paqueta, when he came on as well, he set up the first goal where the keeper smashed into Cornet, and he just looks class as well. And I think we've yet to see the best of this young man, and I'm excited at the prospect. Like I said earlier as well, it was really clever to give Bowen the penalty. I think that boosted his confidence, and I think that might sort of now, he looked really sharp after that goal. He looked like he was back on it again, which was really good to see. And it was a really good result for David Moyes. Absolutely needed after the stick he's been getting. I think it was a decent result. And I think now we're going to just see West Ham, continue to get better throughout the season. I think it was the boost we needed. We didn't play well in the first half, but we certainly took it to them in the second half. And I'm looking forward to the game. And I'm going to do a preview of the game against Silkeborg on Wednesday. And I might have a special guest. I'm going to check my emails because I've been told that there's a possibility that I might get a very special guest coming in. It's not been confirmed yet. So I'm going to keep you guessing. But when I say special, I mean, if any of you watch the Viborg preview, one of my friends from Scandinavian Hammers, Danish Hammers, who was Fleming, got me the CEO of Viborg to be on the show. We've got one better. So, well, I'm fingers crossed we've got one better. Hopefully we'll hear tomorrow. So you're going to have to tune into that. I know I'm being a bit cheeky by not telling you, but there you go. So what do we know about Silkeborg? Well, they're a team that play on artificial turf, as someone else alluded to. 10,000 capacity. They finished third in their league last season, and they're not doing too badly this season as well. And they've been champions of the Superliga once. They've had first division champions three times, Danish Cup winners, Intertoto Cup winners, etc. So they're no mugs. They're as good as, if not slightly better than, Viborg. So it's going to be an interesting game. So do tune in on Wednesday for the preview that I'm going to do with, fingers crossed, a special guest if it gets confirmed. Let's who else have we? That's the game. I don't want to go any more about the game, and because it's been spoken to in to death, to be quite honest with you. Right, what else have we got for you? Well, just one other thing. This is how short this show is. It's been an hour and 12 minutes, and I'm almost to the end of it. Actually, before I do that, before I go on to the last part of the one more thing, let's go back into your chat. Let's scroll down. Yeah, got that one. Got that as well. There we go. Ken, I think we should have moved Heaven and Earth to get... Oh, yes, done that one as well. Sorry, mate. Let's scroll down a bit further then. Daniela, Hammerette, why did they put Sunday's game back 15 minutes? It's probably some royal announcement at 2 p.m. on Sunday. It could be. I don't think we were given that. I think it might be more to do with the fact that it's now being televised. Why can't it start at 2? I'm not so sure, but it might have more to do with that than anything else. Black Country, good evening to you. Stell, Doomsday Machine. Every time I mention young players, I sure am. Mice Collective. From the under-21s, Ewok, Wookie, Pakwok will make it the Premier League. I knew you'll get silly at some point. Ken, I'm 40. I've had 3 relegations, 3 promotions. Used to have one good season every 5, up and down like a roller coaster. I haven't seen us win a trophy. 99% of the games I go to 99% of the games, even when we're bottom 6, and enjoy these times. I'm a lot older than you, Ken, and I've seen us go up, down, win trophies. I've seen us win trophies. I've had that luxury, and I've seen us lose out, unfortunately, at the death for one of the trophies. Liverpool. Trini, when Antonio came on, he took out their big central centre back and then his replacement and scored from the same move. Beast mode. He was in beast mode. James, I'm so looking forward to Thursday night. Can't get enough of this great club. in Europe. Absolutely. Dabs. I think Kera will be up there this season for Hammer of the Year. I'll make you right, mate. I wouldn't be surprised. Tony, no, still I'm 50, so been around a bit. Fair play. Good evening, Learn to Dig. How are you, mate? I read many over-expectant and over-critical opinions of our players' abilities, but staying in the top division for 10 years straight is a simple symbol of establishment. Come on, you Irons. How are you, Learn to Dig? You're not being negative, dare I say, tonight. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Black Country. Hi, not yet. You're always negative. That's unfair. Black Country. Hi, Hammerette. Hope you're all right. Club investment, 180 million. Just look at the other clubs, what they do when things don't go right. Just a question, Happy. What do? They sack their managers. Are we there yet? I don't think so. We're not ready to sack our manager. Peter, so sad to hear about ex-footballer Marcus Stewart has been diagnosed with M&D. We wish him well. Didn't know about that, so thank you for pointing that out. Greg, I love the way Ogbonna stared the ref for not giving a goal kick, but then reversed the decision. Vinay, love Oggy. We're going to bloody well miss him. I'm going to do an Oggy special when he leaves West Ham about all the good times because he's been brilliant. Vinay, James Bond, I'm Moyes in. Look what's happening. Some fans want Klopp out. Unplanned change can be a disaster. Dan. Have you seen the Dan Axel Zagadou? Yeah, I have. But interestingly, mate, apparently Moyes is going nowhere near freebies. And apparently, but interestingly, if Dawson does go, I wonder if Dan Axel, by all accounts, he's a pretty decent player. He's not got a good track record on his injuries, I understand, but a very decent player is my understanding. Lee, thanks, still in chat. Gotta go. Mate, be luck. Thank you very much. Always appreciate you being on, Lee. Thank you for joining. Gravy Dave, good evening to you. Bowen's going straight into my FPL league team. Good. I hope he does. He deserves it. I've got him in, but only as a sub at the moment. I should change that. Hammer it. 187 watching. Hit the like button. Thank you. Hit the like button, subscribe button, bell notification, and all that. Thanks, Hammer it. Much appreciated. James. I agree, Vina. I've always been Moyes in, although I admit to being underwhelmed both times he was appointed. He proved me wrong, and I've no problem admitting it. And he proved me wrong too. And I'm glad we've got him, to be quite honest with you. Derek, good evening to you. Agree with you, Stel. Carol, what about absolute bargain? Absolute bargain. Hammer of the Year. Early to say, but why not? Bill, Network just putting up a vid saying that Zagadou is signing on a free. Did they really? It's possible. I was told that apparently we're not going anywhere near any freebies, but I'll look into it because if that's news, that's quite interesting. Epic. Still, can't believe you have Silkborg manager on the show. It ain't going to be the Silkborg manager, and it ain't going to be tomorrow. Jake, Stell, do you like Stella by any chance? I actually don't. I can't stand the drink. I don't drink lager. I drink ale. I drink IPAs and all that bollocks. Learn to dig. I don't think West Ham should try to buy their way onto the top table unless the same level of spending is kept over the next 5-6 years. I absolutely agree with you. You can, and I talked about this quite some months ago when I talked about Leeds and how they tried to buy their way into the Champions League and they succeeded. But then the fact that they couldn't maintain it, but busted them and look where they ended up. So you're absolutely right. I think it's slow progress, and we've got to accept that. We've got to accept that if we keep finishing in the top half of the league, if we make Europa League or Europa Conference, I think that's great. And then we slowly build up to that. Keith, Stella, we'll message you on Facebook. We can chat about a future VAR episode. Fantastic, Keith. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Hammer it. Keith, would be great to see you on the channel and share your insights from the other perspective. If you do want to message me, do go and, I haven't got it here because I've just moved platforms. So message me on westhamvoice@gmail.com. Would be fantastic. Thank you for that, Keith. Good evening, Scarborough. How are you, mate? I feel like Paqueta starts on Thursday. Would be great to see him and Skamaka play together. I think that would be nice, but I'd much rather see them both play on Sunday, to be quite honest with you. Keith, thank you. I'm always fair when to watch West Ham. I say as I see it, but Premier League refereeing is absolutely awful. Absolutely agree. VAR is awful and the way we use it. Lenstig, you want plus VE plus VE. Stella, I love when 7 or 8 of the players all wear the same coloured boots. Is that a good thing? Hammerett, can't wait to see a Gerd back and fit, given that Kehrer was our second choice and he's been the bollocks. He has been, hasn't he? Keith, Stellis, I'm also a real Aldrin Yamas. I can't drink that lager. It gives me too much gas. Dabs, I think Brighton might be on the downfall now. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what now that Graham Potter has gone. Peter, good evening to you. Thanks, Del. Another good show. Thank you too, mate. Schmiegel, there it is. westhamvoice@gmail.com. Spam it. Schmiegel, Zagadou pineapple. Is that so? I'm missing out, clearly. So I didn't know this. So this must have happened in the last hour or so. And what does that mean? It's quite possible that that means the end of Dawson in January. It could be that we'll give Dawson what he wanted to leave in January, probably for free. Ken, Onana and Rice battle will be big on Sunday. There will be opposition watch on my Facebook group for Everton. Very interesting. Good shout. Good shout. I'm not going to the game on Sunday. I might do a watch along. I'll see how it goes. Colin Moore thinks Tuchel's coming to West Ham. Yeah. I mentioned that earlier. And Daniela, Colin Moore is clueless. Right. Final part of the show. Because I want to introduce to you 6foot2.co.uk. I know I've spoken about it before, but what I'm doing from now on is I'm going to be putting short videos out on the news columns in 6foot2.co.uk. So we've got a chief writer, a chief editor in. You all know him, Sean Whetstone. He writes and writes and writes. Let's go through it a little bit. 6foot2. I've talked about it before. You know, it's got a number of different areas. It's got a latest news section. And we've called it our very own Now News West Ham. And in Now News West Ham, it gives you all the things that we write about from the 6foot2.co.uk guys. There's also news from Claret and Hugh. There's also Hammer's Zone, I think it's called, or the West Ham Zone, or Hammer's News, should I say, Talk Sport, etc. You find them all in this one page. There are links to everything. Everything you want to know about West Ham, you can get it all from here on the Now News page. There's also a link to all the podcasts, more than just the podcast guys that do their podcasts. There's a link to their latest podcasts, so you can listen to that. Then there's also the video link, the Claret and Hugh boys, as well as myself, West Ham Voice, all the latest shows that we do. You can get a link to it from there. So whilst you're browsing the news, you can go in and find out what the latest video is up and running as well. There's also a history page, as you know. Nigel Khan loves his West Ham history. He knows it off by heart almost, and all the sort of West Ham history news in there. You know, Nigel writes certain things that some are linked. If you see that archives from Chelsea, which was linked to the Chelsea game that we played last weekend, so that's also a really good read as well. And then there's an opinion page. You can become a member. It's free of charge. There's an opinion page. You can even write up your own story, your own thoughts, your own opinions, etc. And it will get published on the website as well. And members posts as well. So what I'm doing is I'm going to start running maybe 1 or 2 shows a day. They're going to be very short shows, around about 5 to 10, 15 minutes maximum, where I'm going to talk about the latest stories that are out. And I put one out earlier this evening about all the latest update stories over the weekend. And then there's other stories that are written up today. So I probably do a 5-10 minute morning show to talk about those. And then if there are other stories coming up, I do an evening show as well. They're not going to be long. They're not going to be detailed, like 2 hours long like this show. And these are some of the examples of the stories that were written over the weekend. Someone mentioned him already. Tuchel to West Ham, apparently, Colin Moore says. John Egan, apparently we're targeting him. But it sounds like, if the Zagadou story is true, it sounds like that's off. And then apparently there's a link to and I've forgotten his name. I should know off by heart because I mentioned him many times before, and I'm looking through my notes frantically to try and remember who this player is. Ibrahim Sangara of PSV. Apparently we were linked to him throughout the throughout the summer transfer window, and then he ended up signing a longer contract with PSV, but the stories are still out there that he could be a long-term replacement to Declan Rice. So do look out for those shows. Do go into that website and become a member, free of charge as well. And look out for the shows that are coming up. Right, so let's finish off with, I can't believe it, an hour and 24 minutes. I'm trying to eke it out to an hour and a half. Epic. Sean Whetstone, didn't know 6'2" is the board. Well, no, it actually, I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. He's got no affiliate. He will not write just positive stories as he was doing in Claret and Hugh. Go and have a read of some of the stuff. He puts up very short stories, and it's all about players and injuries and various other things that are happening, etc. And not a lot of propaganda. I swear to you, Epic, give it a chance. Give it a chance. Ken, I'm not going either on Sunday. Just didn't work out. And 9 games in October, so busy. Yeah, I had an offer of, I could have got on a ticket. I don't know what it was. Money's tight. Can you believe? I mean, it really is. And I think I like a lot of people, I was worried about what my fuel bills might have been in October. And now we know, maybe a bit of a relief there. Dabs, I'm going to make a bold prediction. Noble will become some form of coach at West Ham, then eventually become manager, and then become England manager. Wow. Trini, with Zagadou, at Zagadou's age, makes me wonder why he's a free agent. Injuries. He's had I'm going to look at my back catalogue of the show I did about Zagadou, because I think he's got not a very good track record on his injuries, unfortunately. Daniela, Dabs, Noble has said he's not interested in management. Not yet. Tuchel to Newcastle, quite possibly, if they do well, learn to dig. Yeah, quite possibly. Hammerett, Howard, he has had the same injury as Zuma, I think. There you go. Bill, Zagadou not being picked up on free earlier by any club proves worries over injuries. We may agree a game by game deal. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that that's even out, to be honest with you. Very, very surprised. We know Zuma's carrying an injury, similar, as Hammerett has just said, to Zagadou. And we know that Zuma has got to go through a training regime to make sure that he manages to play. I'm surprised by this story, to be quite honest with you. Dabs, Daniela, I don't think he has, but even if that were true, I don't think Noble will ever turn down that opportunity. I don't know. I don't think he's ready to become manager. It might be a few years yet. My pleasure, Hamret, as usual. Daniela, and thank you to the guys who do I keep forgetting to thank them. To the guys who moderate on here for me, much respect to you. I know you're busy people, and I really respect that you take the time out to do it. Daniela, Newcastle got to get top 4, and remember, they've got a sack pissing off the owners who want to buy Ronaldo. So yeah, that's true. Howard, before Tuchel can take over. Great shows. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. A couple more comments and then I'm gone. Scarborough. Noble was going to become sporting director. It's only a formality. That might still happen. That's true. Smeagol, Jason Denier is better than Zagadou, in my opinion. He's also available, and I do agree with you, and much less injuries as well. Hamret, Zagadou squad player, though, to get us out of the shite, unless a GERD is a longer-term problem than predicted. John Egan, Kent, good player, played down south at Gillingham. Very good player in Irish International. Martin, Tuchel to Newcastle, good shout. Never thought of that. But as Daniela said, only if they make top 4. And then they've got to sack their manager for getting them to the top 4 in order to appoint Tuchel. Kind of, yeah. Right, people. You got the rest of your Monday evening back. An hour and a half. It's only 10 o'clock. We haven't gone into Tuesday. Oh, fucking hell. You're going to have to memorize that. You can remember this day forever. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. I think there'll be more news coming up when we have 2 more games coming up throughout this week. We've got the Silkbook game. We've got the Everton game. There are going to be many stories to talk about, etc. Player ability, how players did, etc., etc., etc. So it'll be a much fuller show next Monday. I promise you. But look out for the 6foot2.co.uk shows that are on this channel that I'll be doing. Short 5-10 minute snapshots, bulletins about the latest stories, etc. Do go and subscribe and become a member of the 6foot2.co.uk as well. And if you're new to this channel, become a subscriber to this channel as well. Thank you all. Really much appreciated. And we'll see you all sooner than you think.